I may have just discovered something so crazy, so insane, so mind-blowing that even film theory, game theory himself couldn't think of it. Yes, so I figured out that Clark from the Backrooms movie is Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother, trapped in a sort of purgatory / lesson. And you might be saying, Jessa, that's really weird. It's a totally different time period. Blah, blah, blah. Well, let me explain based on some connections I found. So we can determine that the shows How I Met Your Mother and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia take place in the same universe, considering that the episode Hero or Hate Crime, in the episode Hero or Hate Crime, it takes place, the piano lottery ticket sequence takes place in the same set that was used for McLaren's pub.
Look out, faggot!
In How I Met Your Mother. So we can establish that they take place in the same universe. In a different season, there's an episode called The Gang Turns Black, which is a reference to this show. If you don't know, it's kind of old. It's a show called Quantum Leap, where essentially this guy gets sent through time and it becomes different people. He inhabits their bodies and becomes different people to essentially learn a lesson that day. So we've established that in universe, it's possible that there's this figure, be it God or I think it's an angel in Quantum Leap, that essentially can put people into different bodies to teach them a lesson. So, and in that episode, we also learn that this was entirely a dream from the old black man who was sleeping in the bed from back in Dennis moved to the suburbs. So, we have established that A, people are able to inhabit different bodies through magic, and B, that sometimes what you see in the universe presented in front of you isn't real. So you see where I'm going with this. So I think whatever force or power in universe is upset with Ted Mosby's crimes against humanity, and they decided to punish him by sending him into a fake universe where backrooms exist and you can get trapped in them, because we know that Ted Mosby is an architect.
You proved it, all right? The whole Ted Mosby architect thing works.
Architects rule!
Just because you didn't get to be an architect.
I am a fucking architect. God damn it, I'm just stuck selling shit furniture because someone won't get off their fat fucking ass and help me.
Where should we eat today?
Oh, awesome. You brought lunch for everyone?
And the only thing that could cause his undoing, because his ego is so strong, is himself and his obsession with architecture. And there is no better way to torture somebody who's obsessed with architecture than putting them in an endless universe of buildings. This also addresses too, I've seen some criticism online about about how Clark could play into some stereotypes, and it's interesting how people would say, oh, it's colorblind casting. But if a privileged white man from Ohio is inhabiting the body of a black man in the 90s, that would explain why he never addresses anything that has to do with race or anything like that. Also, you can see in the movie that So his name's Bobby, and he's wearing this really cool shirt that says End Apartheid. And interestingly, Clark does nothing to address it, doesn't talk about it at all. And if you've seen How I Met Your Mother, you know that this group of friends has no respect at all for any political or any tragedies. In one season of How I Met Your Mother, Barney Stinson says that he would, quote unquote, solve apartheid by parting her thighs.
Apartheid?
Apart thighs. What else you got?
Boo! You stink!
Also, what was Marshall dressed as for Halloween in season 1 or 2? A pirate. Yes, that's true. So in Ted's subconscious, he already has this pirate imagery in his head. And also, when you think about it, who among Ted's friend group always wears stupid, dumb costumes to try to trick women into sleeping with him? That's right, Barney Stinson. So, you may ask, who is Pirate Clark then? Well, obviously, Pirate Clark is Ted's manifestation of Barney Stinson in his subconscious. Because Pirate Clark consumes anything he sees. He has this ravenous craving for flesh, just like Barney craves the next conqueror or the next woman he sees as objects. That's the thing that the universe is trying to torture Ted and Barney with, because they see women as replaceable objects, just like furniture, perhaps. Also, when Clark is role-playing with the therapist, it's oddly reminiscent of this episode of How I Met Your Mother, where Ted realizes that he's been on the same date 10 years prior with the same woman. And because Ted has such an obsession with happy endings, him as Clark could be obsessed with getting closure on his divorce or separation. And he uses the therapist to roleplay this. The universe could also be testing him and showing him that even if he thought he could find the one, his obsession with control and idealizing family values could be his downfall. And also, that's why Pirate Clark is chasing after Dr. Mary Klein, because broken down to his most intimate and subconscious desires, Barney is wanting to consume these women. He sees them as just objects to be conquered. And that's why Pirate Clark is chasing her. Clark also suffers with a drinking problem. Do you know who else binge drinks? That's right, Ted Mosby. And also, Clark says to Pirate Clark, "We don't have to change." And do you know who's stuck in a state of arrested development? That's right, Ted and Barney. They don't want to change their bachelor ways throughout the entire show, which runs for like 7+ years. But in the end, it's the dangerous habits which bring about Clark's undoing. So it's the image of Pirate Clark biting Clark is a reference to a painting called Saturn Devours His Son. And the painting is portraying the myth of Saturn eating his sons, because in the Roman myth, Gaia told him that she saw into the future that his sons would overthrow him, so Saturn would eat every single one of his sons when they were born. And you might be like, well, how does this even connect to How I Met Your Mother? The thing is, on the the writers didn't really understand the impact they were having on the culture. They created the manosphere in a way by promoting these ideals that women are jokes to not be taken seriously. And in that way, they've created this monster that's consuming itself. And that's why people say the patriarchy hurts men too. Because I left on Instagram, I left a comment about how I wish that I loved Obsession, but I wish that we had more horror movies showing men crying. And then a guy replied saying, well, we're not pussies, and that's why we don't cry. And that's what I mean, where like men think that they're being freed by the manosphere, but it's actually consuming themselves and hurting themselves. Because if men didn't have to put on this macho persona of never having emotions, they would actually feel freer. But because of the constraints that the writers of How I Met Your Mother thought they were actually being humorous instead of misogynistic, what they did is they created a trap where it's like Simulacra by Baudelaire, because it's like we, in the show, Barney, they're not really supposed to like him. But he became such a huge pop figure culture, and the writers erred on the side of caution of portraying him as a bad guy, even though originally he was looked down upon. He became the zeitgeist of the early 2000s. And so that a copy of a copy of a copy became the manosphere which we know today. And what is the main theme of Backrooms? The copy of the copy of the copy of the copy. So we start with a relatively harmless show, How I Met Your Mother, that, you know, oh, maybe we say a couple misogynistic, racist, transphobic jokes here or there, but it's all just for fun. And then it just multiplies, it just copies and copies and copies until we have on social media, we have men just, you know, calling women fridges or just straight up being transphobic in Instagram comments unapologetically. And that's the theme of Backrooms.
Oh, shit. Look at that door, dude. See that door right there? One marked pirate. You think a pirate lives in there?